Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today we're going to be talking about some very big news coming out of the LEC, and more specifically, once again, G2. All of their players, the whole team, the whole roster, whether they're staying or going, all the different possibilities of where they could end up or what they could end up doing in 2022. They're just such big stories individually, and obviously all of the other big popular teams in Europe, like Fnatic, Mad Lions, Rogue, they're all going to Worlds. So they're not in off-season mode yet. They're not in full rumor mode yet. Now there is still some news, some rumors, some stories that are coming out of those teams, but much more will be coming out about those teams, come October, if some of those teams start getting knocked out, or if World starts going bad, or come November, once World is over, once, actually free agency starts. But for now, G2 is in full offseason mode. We're getting more and more news coming out about them, and today we actually have some pretty interesting, pretty significant news coming out about the man in the jungle himself for the team. Obviously, Jankos, that's what we're going to be talking about today, so definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy this video. I would appreciate it so much. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. We're on that road to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I'm trying to be your #1 source for League of Legends news and coverage and all that good stuff. We have a ton of awesome videos and stories coming your way very soon, and consider checking out my Patreon, patreon.com/IamGerm, if you want to help support me, my channel, and my content. With that being said, let's get right into this one. So for Jankos, we have heard a ton of different rumors and possibilities for him. I think one of the biggest main rumors for a while now has been Jankos potentially going to North America. We know he has talked a little bit about maybe wanting to retire in the past, or maybe knowing that he doesn't have too many years in his career left, and also knowing that he wants to be a big content creator, he wants to be a streamer, he wants to do this stuff once he retires, and going to NA could, one, get him a bunch of money. He's going to get a massive contract in North America. Two, it could have him pair up with Perks again, in the mid lane on Cloud9. That would be very cool to see, and I'm sure those guys have a great relationship still and would be very interested in doing so. Jankos could come over to North America and grow his brand and fan base even more. He could, get American fans, which would then, carry over into when he starts to do streaming and YouTube and all that stuff in the future. And they would still have a really decent team, because Cloud9's already pretty good now. They just had a decent showing at MSI, and obviously with Jankos, they would get a little bit better. They'd have a chance to go to Worlds. It'd probably be easier to qualify for Worlds and MSI and everything in NA than in Europe, and just all these different options. But again, obviously staying with G2, very solid option as well. They have a chance, if they make the right moves, to maybe be one of the better teams in the world in the next couple of years. And obviously G2 is a massive brand as well, and you gotta assume Jankos is getting a pretty nice salary, a pretty nice paycheck from the man Carlos. But the big news we have coming out today is from Applehead, and this is actually a couple of different sources we've heard talking about this stuff. He says that Jankos to NA is still very possible. He doesn't say it's likely, he doesn't say it's happening, he doesn't really, even give us too much here, but he's saying it's not off the table. There are still maybe just some discussions between G2 and Cloud9 that are either going on or are maybe going to go on, again, after Worlds happens, once Worlds kind of winds down, maybe once Cloud9 gets eliminated, maybe once TL gets eliminated. I think TL is absolutely going to be in these discussions and conversations as well. And it at least means that, Jankos is not 100% staying, at least at this point, with G2 for the future, which is interesting. He also has heard that G2 is exploring options in the European regional leagues from a very popular team nonetheless. Obviously, that is getting a lot of people to assume he is talking about K-Corp and their jungler right here, who is Syncroft. I believe he is a Polish jungler. Obviously, K-Corp is the back-to-back European Masters champions, so they have a lot of top level talent. They have a lot of ERL talent that people are very excited about, and recently we've seen a lot of guys coming out of the ERLs and doing really well right away, and maybe G2 could be looking to build towards the future, which could be an interesting option, or maybe some of these guys are going to come into the LEC and have an instant impact. Either way, it could make some sense for G2, since again, we're a couple years removed from 2019 now. G2's results have just been getting worse and worse. They went from world finalists to world semifinalists to now not even making it to Worlds, and they can keep trying to plug the holes and keep trying to make this roster work, or they can take 1 year of just rebuilding and then maybe being one of the best teams in the world again in 2 or 3 years. Because yes, they can make some big moves, they can maybe sign some free agents and work around this core, but then you might get into this situation where you still just aren't ever quite good enough. You still maybe, have some players that are a little bit past their prime, and then you might end up in the same position 2 or 3 years from now where you're looking to rebuild, and then you're still another 1 or 2 years away from being a top team. So sometimes it is better to rebuild sooner rather than later. Sometimes holding out hope for your, team to regain their old form or to go back to their primes or something like that. Sometimes that can be a little bit of hopium, and sometimes, that never pans out. But I get why players, coaches, fans are, reluctant to ever give up on players that have had really high highs in their past, like a Jankos, like a Mickey, like a Wonder, some of these guys. I still think Jankos is great. I still think he's going to be great in 2022, but I'm just saying he has an insane value, and selling him off to another team and maybe going and getting the next Jankos, who not only is going to be Jankos, next year, but could maybe be Jankos for the next 5 years, could be an interesting proposition. Now, obviously, going with European Regional League players is very, very risky. The hit rate on prospects, free agents, stuff like that is very, very low. For every one guy that turns into a Jankos, there's 3, 4, 5 guys that flame out, and they're out of the LEC within a year or two. So you never really know. You got to really rely on your scouting, your coaching staff, all of that stuff. But it looks like Syncroft may be an option for G2, which is very, very interesting. But the other possibility here, what Applehead says, and again, this is something I have heard from other people as well, is that another possibility is Jankos becoming a streamer for the organization. I have heard Jankos is unsure if he wants to continue playing. G2 is trying out other options, but it sounds like they're wanting to keep him for next season. So again, a lot to unpack there. It sounds like G2, the most likely option is that they're trying to keep him. And if that Jankos wants to play in 2022, he will most likely be doing so on G2 Esports. But just understanding that NA options are not off the table. If G2 does find a jungler, that they're absolutely in love with, or some guy that has an insane tryout, or some guy that they really believe in, or maybe if they get blown away by an offer from a Cloud9 or a Team Liquid, if there's some amount of money that they just can't pass up. But then also the ball is in Jankos' court a little bit as well. Maybe depending on the roster moves that G2 makes, again, they're selling off Wonder, they're selling off Mickey, they're maybe selling off Grabs. G2 is going to look a lot different next year. Maybe Jankos will like the direction that the team's headed in, maybe he won't. And maybe, playing again in 2022, given one more shot at it, given one more chance to win more titles, to win worlds, could be really, really enticing to him. Or maybe he just feels like he's better off streaming, creating content. Maybe he feels like G2 won't have a team that's going to be able to compete for MSI and Worlds titles. And Jankos has been to Worlds a bunch of times. He's won a bunch of titles. At this point, he probably wants to go for either a ton of money or an actual championship or something like that. I don't really feel like G2 is going to be in that position next year. So I would absolutely understand if he did decide to retire. But, for a while, Jankos was saying he was coming back next year, that he was going to be playing for sure. But now, is he maybe having some second thoughts? Is he maybe having some doubts? Again, I don't know for sure. This is just what we're hearing from Applehead. And obviously, some people will think, he's a good source. Some people will not. It's up to you guys to make your own conclusions. I'm just kind of letting you guys know what some different people out there are saying. I do believe, I don't follow him, but I do believe Jacob Wolf was saying that a lot of this is BS. I don't know if he was talking about Applehead specifically, but, he was just saying be careful because there's a lot of BS rumors and speculation and stuff going out right now. But, I don't know. Jacob Wolf is kind of in that salty journalist category area where they definitely have some bias. They definitely have, some blinded and clouded judgment. And I don't follow him, so I didn't really see everything he said. So I would take that with a grain of salt. But it's very, very possible. I'm just letting you guys know everything that is out there, in that, the Jankos situation is still very, very undecided. There is a bunch of different scenarios up in the air. And at this point, again, it's still September. There's still so much time for all this stuff to play out, but anything could happen. So definitely drop a like if you guys did enjoy this video. I would appreciate it so much. Leave a comment down below. What do you think Jankos is going to do in 2022? Stay with G2, go to NA, or retire? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace!